Okay, so moving on to back to drawing. Okay, so now we have our test tiles, we have our original drawings, we have our piece that's been bisqued, and that is awesome. We're feeling pretty good about things, and we're also feeling maybe a little nervous because, like I said, we spent a lot of time getting it through this process, and we haven't made a big mistake yet, and we're feeling like, you know, we're finished, right? Like we can breathe a sigh of relief, but then we realize we got to glaze, and that for a lot of people is daunting. It can be a deep dive. Some people solve the problem by making everything white or black, which is totally fine. But if you're interested in color and exploring color, then it is a big, bold, beautiful world, and it is a lot to take in. So how do we do that? Well, there are a lot of options. This is what I do. This is not necessarily what other people need to do, but hopefully you'll find this helpful. So what I like to do is, once my piece is bisqued, and only when it's bisqued, not before, I like to take photographs of the piece with my phone. They're just snapshots. It's not a big deal. They're not, it's not, like I said before, it's not art. You don't have to worry about that. So what I do is I just take, and these are gonna look super boring. Okay, it's a super boring snapshot that I then, you know, I emailed to myself. I print it out in my home printer. So what I do is I print like 6 of these, and I take photographs from different angles because I'm making sculpture. If you're making pots, it might be different. It might not. It really depends on what your work is like. But now, and I print it out always in black and white, never in color. And here's the reason. It's because I want to be able to go back in and color it myself. I use a lot of colored pencils. I use these watercolor pencils, but you don't have to. I think you could use anything. You could use colored pens. It's really up to you. I just find that these work for the colors that I'm looking for. They work really well. If I can't find colors, I'm working on a particular project and I can't find colors that really are telling me what the piece needs to be, then I go to the art store and I just buy like a handful of colors, and I just get a bunch of color pencils. And of course, something to keep them in because they can get unwieldy. And so then I just start. I find that it's the hardest thing to know what you want the piece to be. I have a really hard time with taking things from this bisqued color or this bisqued color to this bisqued color to what it's going to look like when it sits fired, because besides the fact that it shrinks ever so slightly at this point, you know, this is, to me, this is very pink. It's pale, and it's not looking, it doesn't look anything like what it's going to look like, which is this. And so that kind of constant switching in my head of what it's going to look like, but what it looks like now, I find very confusing. And so in order to get away from that and to remove that from the process, print it out in black and white, and then I use my colored pencils and I just start to get a board here. I start, makes it a little easier to see. I start adding color and I make choices. And I start trying to figure out what it's going to look like. Like, what is it actually going to look like? Do I want that to be purple? I'm not sure. Maybe I want it to be green. Oh, maybe I like it green. You know, what if there's a different sculpture. What if I want it to be like that? Or that? Or that? or that. Or maybe I want to see them all together. Maybe now I can choose. Makes it so much easier. Then I can start saying, you know, yeah, I like the green. Maybe I don't like the red. Maybe I would prefer the red with there with a red here. You know, like I can make more drawings. It generates more drawings. I call these Glaze colorways. So I generate a bunch of Glaze colorways, and then I start to, it's a process of elimination. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Then I work a little harder. Then I can think about things like texture and sheen. You know, where do I want the raw clay to show? Where do I want it to be shiny? Where do I want it to be matte? So that means, so here I use a glaze. Here maybe I use an underglaze. You know, I start to really make choices. And then of course, it's also important for me, it doesn't have to be for you, but for me, I'm not sure if you can see this. It's important to have just a list for yourself. So these are like all the colors that I use for the colored pencils. That way I can go back to them if I need to. It's just a way of getting organized and figuring things out. So, you know, you've got greens, you've got purples, you've got reds and corals and browns. You know, you got all that sort of stuff happening. Then, yeah, then once once it's all kind of put together and finished, then you really feel a lot more confident. So one of the last things I do is I take that image and I just draw on it. There's a list here. So it's very simple. And it's for the future, actually, too. If, for example, I want to make another piece like this, I have all of the glazes figured out for where they're going. It's very simple. You know, if you don't want to keep a lot of paper, totally fine. Rescan it, keep it on your computer. You don't have to keep all these. You just want a record of it, really. You just want some kind of way of keeping a record. You can keep them like I do, but it's totally not necessary. So that way, you know that this and this are the same thing. You know, this is the front, this is the back. These are the same. Then you will have for yourself also a record, if you want, of all the things. So, you know, you start with drawings, you make your own kind of like, basically like a coloring book. You scan them, you print out as many as you want, so you don't have to be precious about them. You start to color them in. Great. Maybe you use that, maybe you don't, maybe you just catalog it. Or, for example, my newer sculptures, they're a little more complicated. So, you know, they start get the board, it makes it easier for you to see. They start very simple. They can be a doodle. Computer's awesome. You can make a small sketch, you can blow it up. It can be whatever you want it to be. Then you just start adding color. There's another one. You start figuring out what you like, what you don't like. Add some collage elements if that's what you like to do, what's working for you. That's how I work, but it doesn't work for everybody. Although I will say Laura recently posted some gorgeous collages that she's making. So I highly recommend people thinking about that sort of thing. Hers are not digital collages. These are digitally included, but sometimes the actual collages are even more beautiful because they have a little bit of texture. It's a great way to work. So then you just start adding, right? Things as they go. Start working with forms. So basically, pretty simple. Start simple. Start with a form. It can be your form that you draw. It can be source material. It can be anything you want. In this case, it was just a printout of a screen, some sort of clip art that I used because I liked the shape. I liked that these were pointing in front, not on top. This is was where the lens is. And I liked that it was sort of on this kind of foot. Great. So then I made a model for myself, and I took a picture like we talked about. And then, so this is my model, picture of my model. And then I drew this in there because, you know, I wanted to play with ideas, right? That turned into this. And that is the next sculpture I'll make. Super simple. Any questions?